There is a village in Bulgaria, a valley called Kazanlak, where every June, the air itself changes. It doesn't smell like countryside. It doesn't smell like flowers in the ordinary sense. It smells like something you've never encountered before. Something so thick and sweet and ancient that visitors from other countries have described it as smelling like the color red. Women and men move through the fields before sunrise with baskets, harvesting by hand before the heat of the morning sun can dissolve what they came for. They've been doing this for 400 years. What they're collecting is not food. It's not lumber. It's not fiber. It's the petals of a rose. Not any rose, Rosa damascena, the Damask Rose. And in that valley alone, over 15,000 acres of it grow, producing more than 2,000 tons of rose petals every single season. For centuries, the people of that valley kept its secrets close. They knew something that the rest of the world, with its gardens full of ornamental roses grown purely for color and shape, simply never thought to ask. This plant is a pharmacy, a kitchen, a cosmetic laboratory. And it grows in your backyard right now, most likely doing nothing except looking beautiful once a year before its petals fall and get swept away. The rose is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history. Fossil evidence of wild roses dates back 35 million years. Ancient Romans scattered rose petals on the floors of their feast halls and used rose oil as perfume and medicine simultaneously. Cleopatra reportedly filled her meeting room with 2 feet of rose petals before receiving Mark Antony. Persian physician Ibn Sina, who wrote the foundational medical texts used in Europe for 500 years, documented rosewater's use for heart strengthening, digestive healing, and treatment of skin inflammation around the year 1000 AD. Avicenna, as he was known in the West, extracted rose oil using distillation, a technique he pioneered partly because of this plant. That history didn't happen because roses are beautiful. It happened because roses work. But here is the thing that the ornamental rose industry never tells you, the thing the perfume companies have quietly kept to themselves while charging $40 for a 10-milliliter vial. The same rose growing in your garden, the one you water and prune and watch bloom every spring, produces something beyond its petals. It produces rose hips. And what rose hips contain will make you look at this plant in an entirely different way. The rose is extraordinarily democratic in its geography. While the most medicinally celebrated varieties, Rosa damascena, Rosa canina, and Rosa rugosa, each have their preferred climates. Collectively, they span nearly every inhabited continent. Rosa canina, the wild dog rose, grows across Europe, North Africa, and Western Asia. It naturalizes aggressively in hedgerows, forest edges, and roadsides from Scandinavia to Afghanistan. In Pakistan, in the northern valleys of Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir, wild rose hips color the hillsides red-orange every autumn. In Iran, Rosa damascena has been cultivated in the province of Fars for centuries. Turkey's Isparta region grows thousands of tons of damask rose petals annually, second only to Bulgaria. In South America, Rosa eglanteria, the sweetbriar rose, was introduced by European settlers and now grows semi-wild across Argentina and Chile. In China, Rosa roxburghii, the chestnut rose, has been used in traditional medicine for over 1,000 years and is today grown commercially for its exceptionally high vitamin C content. The rose tolerates cold winters better than most garden plants. Rosa rugosa, the beach rose native to coastal northeastern Asia, survives temperatures of -25 degrees Celsius. Rosa canina is hardy down to -15. What this means practically is that a plant with serious medicinal properties is accessible to gardeners across almost the entire inhabited world in temperate zones, subtropical climates, high-altitude regions of South Asia, and cold coastal environments alike. The growth timeline is one of the rose's most underappreciated strengths. A bare-root rose, planted in early spring, will establish its root system within the first season, produce meaningful flowers in its second year, and reach full productive maturity between its third and fifth year. From that point on, a well-maintained rosebush can continue producing for 20 to 30 years without replanting, one planting. 3 decades of harvest. The harvest window has two distinct phases, and both matter enormously. The first is the flower harvest petals collected in early morning at full bloom, before afternoon sun volatilizes the essential oils trapped in the petals. This is the window for rose water, rose tea, and culinary use. The second harvest comes in autumn, after the flowers have finished, and the plant redirects its energy into swelling red-orange fruits, the rose hip. These are harvested after the first frost, which softens them and concentrates their sugars. In weight terms, a mature Rosa canina hedge can produce 3 to 4 kilograms of rose hips per plant per season. One established hedge can supply a household's vitamin C and anti-inflammatory needs for the better part of a year. Most gardeners in South Asia, the Middle East, and Europe grow roses and harvest nothing. They watch the hips shrivel and fall. This is equivalent to growing a lemon tree and throwing away every single fruit. This is where the story gets urgent. Researchers at the University of Copenhagen published a series of clinical trials between 2008 and 2015 examining the effect of standardized rose hip powder on patients with knee and hip osteoarthritis. What they found was a statistically significant reduction in pain scores, a measurable reduction in C-reactive protein, which is the body's inflammatory marker, and a reduction in rescue medication use compared to placebo groups. The active compound responsible, a galactolipid called GOPO, was found to inhibit the migration of white blood cells into joint tissue, interrupting the inflammatory cascade at its origin. This isn't anecdotal folk medicine. This is peer-reviewed clinical data published in phytomedicine and osteoarthritis and cartilage journals that don't accept soft evidence. Then there is the vitamin C question, and this is the one that genuinely stops people. The vitamin C content of dried rose hips, specifically Rosa canina, has been measured at between 400 and 2,000 milligrams per 100 grams of dried fruit, depending on processing method and variety. For reference, fresh oranges contain approximately 53 milligrams per 100 grams. A single tablespoon of properly prepared rose hip powder contains more vitamin C than 2 to 3 whole oranges. This isn't a marginal difference, it's a 10 to 40 times difference. But rose hips don't stop at vitamin C. They contain significant levels of vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, and vitamin B complex. They carry flavonoids, including quercetin and kaempferol, both of which have documented anti-inflammatory and antioxidant mechanisms. They contain lycopene and beta-carotene, the same carotenoids found in tomatoes and carrots, which have established roles in cardiovascular and skin health. A traditional cup of rose hip tea made from the whole dried fruits delivers a genuinely dense nutritional load, far denser than most people expect from something they currently throw away. The petals carry their own medicinal profile. Rose petal tea has documented mild anxiolytic effects. It promotes relaxation and reduces cortisol response in small-scale human studies. Rose water, distilled from fresh petals, has documented antibacterial properties against common skin pathogens and anti-inflammatory effects when applied topically. Traditional Unani and Ayurvedic medicine have used rose petal preparations for digestive comfort, particularly for nausea and gastric inflammation, for centuries, and modern phytochemical research is now identifying why. The tannins and flavonoids in the petals have measurable smooth muscle relaxant effects on intestinal tissue. As for animals, rose hips are safe and nutritionally beneficial for horses, cattle, goats, and poultry. Farmers in Scandinavia and Central Europe have historically added rose hips to winter livestock feed as a vitamin supplement during months when fresh forage is unavailable. The same anti-inflammatory galactolipids that benefit human joints have measurable anti-inflammatory effects in equine arthritis models. Environmentally, the rose is a net contributor. Its flowers are among the most important pollen and nectar sources for early season pollinators, particularly single-petal varieties like Rosa canina and Rosa rugosa, which provide open-faced blooms accessible to bees. Rose hedges create dense habitat for small birds and beneficial insects. Their root systems stabilize embankments and improve soil structure in degraded land. Here is what to do with what you now know. For rose hip tea, the simplest and most nutritionally complete preparation, collect ripe hips in autumn after the first frost. Slice them open. Remove the seeds and internal fibers which cause irritation if consumed in quantity, and dry the cleaned flesh at a low temperature, ideally below 50 degrees Celsius, to preserve vitamin C. Store in an airtight glass jar away from direct light. To prepare, steep 1 to 2 tablespoons of dried hip pieces in nearly boiling water for 10 to 15 minutes. The flavor is tart, mildly sweet, with a warmth that deepens in winter. For rose water at home, simmer fresh petals of any fragrant rose variety in just enough distilled water to cover them on the lowest heat until the petals lose most of their color. Strain and bottle. Use as a facial toner, a digestive tea base, or a culinary flavoring for rice, sweets, or yogurt. For seed preservation, collect rose hips in late autumn before they shrivel. The seeds inside each hip are fully mature at this point. Clean and dry them, then store in slightly damp sand in a sealed container in the refrigerator for at least 2 months before planting. This cold stratification mimics winter and breaks the seed's dormancy. Rose seeds have a low germination rate compared to cuttings, but the plants produced are genetically diverse and often more vigorous. The more practical preservation method is hardwood cuttings taken in late autumn. 20-centimeter sections of healthy stem placed directly in well-draining soil or sand, roots reliably within 1 season. One healthy rose bush can generate 5 to 10 cuttings annually, meaning within 3 to 5 years, a single plant can colonize an entire property boundary with medicinal hedge. The economics matter here. Cold-pressed rose hip seed oil, a cosmetic product extracted from the seeds of Rosa moschata, sells internationally for between $40 and $150 per 100 milliliters. Rose hip powder, dried and ground, retails in European markets at 15 to 30 euros per kilogram. Pure Rosa damascena essential oil sells for between $1,000 and $8,000 per kilogram because it takes approximately 3 to 5 tons of hand-harvested petals to produce 1 kilogram of oil. The Bulgarian and Turkish rose oil industry generates hundreds of millions of dollars annually from a plant that is, at its core, a perennial shrub that requires no annual replanting, tolerates poor soil, and in wild form needs essentially no human intervention to produce its fruit. That woman in Kazanlak, moving through the field before sunrise with her basket, is participating in an economy that has persisted for 4 centuries because the product is genuinely irreplaceable. No synthetic molecule has fully replicated the complexity of rose absolute oil. No laboratory vitamin C formulation carries the full spectrum of bioflavonoids that co-occur naturally in the rose hip. The whole plant flower, fruit, seed, root is a system that evolved over millions of years into something that, plant by plant, works better than the sum of its extracted parts. You may already have this plant growing outside your window. You may have looked at it hundreds of times and seen only color. Now you see medicine. Now you see food. Now you see 40 years of harvests, if you choose to start.